Last time I did the best bosses from the Mario RPGs. It is time to do the worst bosses, because we do need that balance, but I will say that this list was so much harder to make than the best bosses, because there's just not that many options for bad bosses in Mario RPGs. There's definitely a few annoying bosses, and don't worry, you'll see those bosses way later down the list, but for the higher up spots, it's kind of just like, if I had to pick a boss, I guess I'd put it there. So it was definitely a difficult list to do, but the rules from the best bosses do carry over for this one. I mean, they're slightly different, but most of them are the same. I'm going to be including one boss from each Mario RPG. I have not played the original Paper Mario, the original Super Mario RPG, or Mario and Rabbids, so no bosses from those games will be included on this list. And unlike the best bosses, I will be including final bosses on this list. I mean, not many obviously got on here, but instead, I'm not going to be including any first bosses, because first bosses are kind of just trying to teach you, trying to just, like, get you used to playing the game, so I just think there's no need to include them on the list. But every other boss is fair game, so let's get started on this list. But actually, before we get started on this list, I tried to tell you guys to hit 75 likes on the best bosses list, and you guys crushed that in 6 hours. I really appreciate that, so I guess I have to go for a more ambitious like goal. 125. Let's go with that. That's a big number, but hey, please like the video. I'd really appreciate that. And also, make sure to subscribe if you're into the Mario RPGs. I really appreciate that as well. I'm trying to hit 2,000 by the end of the year. But other than that, let's get started on this list. Magnus Von Grapple 2.0. I don't even dislike this fight. I don't think it's only mediocre. I genuinely like it. It's fun. I mean, it's somewhat difficult. I think his attacks are okay. It works. It's a fair boss fight. It's solid. The only reason it's on this list is that I am so tired of Lord Crump fights once you get to Chapter 7. Because you fought him so many times at this point that I'm just like, just give me an original boss. I mean, you fought him so many times, it's just so stupid. You could have fought Lord Grotus here. But no, another Lord Crump fight, it just doesn't make sense. I will say that the first Magnus Von Grapple fight is technically worse than this one, but I'm not tired of Lord Crump yet when I'm in Chapter 2. But when you're all the way in Chapter 7 when you fought him so many times, yeah, I guess you can kind of see my reasoning from it. Again, it's kind of a pitiful reason, which is why it's only number 10 on this list. But if I had to pick a boss for Thousand Year Door to put on this list, I guess I put Magnus Von Grapple 2.0. I'm just tired of fighting Lord Crump, and that's why it's on this list. We're not onto the bad fights yet. We actually won't be onto the bad fights in a little bit, but we aren't on good fights anymore. I mean, Kamek is just kind of a mediocre fight in Partners in Time. It's a very easy and simple fight, and if you would tell me that this is the first boss in the game, I would believe you, because it's just so simple. I mean, all you have to do is just use Smash X to destroy his copies, and then Cannonballer. That's it. His attacks are okay enough. I think the fire attack is good. I think the spike ball attack is super easy because he heals you more than he actually damages you. And, I mean, again, him splitting into copies is really easy to get around. There's just not much with this fight, and it kind of shows because it doesn't have a boss explosion like other bosses in this game actually does. It kind of shows that this was treated like a mini-boss, a very simple, easy boss fight at that. And that's why it's on this list. I mean, it's not a terrible fight, there's nothing really wrong with it, but we're kind of into bosses that are just really easy and simple. So Kamek definitely deserves to be on this list. Dragaho is such a simple and easy boss, just like Kamek, and to be honest, we're at the range of very mediocre boss fights that are just very simple and easy. But not only is Dragaho simple and easy, Dragaho is actually disappointing to me in a way, because not only is this boss fight very easy, because it has very low health, and it has a single attack. I mean, the concept obviously is very simple, because all it is that he can shrink and then he can spawn out a rock that makes him normal height again. But the reason why it's disappointing is because Huhuris was before this fight, and it has such a good concept with the two pillars. But then you go back to a super simple boss fight that was supposed to be somewhat hyped up because it's at the top of the mountain, but you get this. A very simple fight that has nothing to it. And this is why the boss fight is disappointing to me. I wouldn't really say it's a bad thing, it's a personal expectation that just really dropped for me, and that's why it's lower than Kamek in my opinion. I just don't really care about this fight too much, and at the very least, Tolstar being the first boss fight, it does somewhat get a pass for being simple, because it's the first boss fight. I don't think it should be that simple, but it has that excuse. But Draco-Ho-Ho, it has no excuse at all, especially because Huhuris showed what this boss could have been. And sadly, this boss fight just showed no interest for me personally, which is why it's on this list. The big lava bubble from Color Splash. Another very easy and simple boss. You might be wondering why you're listening to very calm and happy music. Well, it's because this boss fight is harmless. It does so little damage and it's super easy to block when he attacks. You can easily cheese this fight with ice flowers. The only thing I really want to mention that's good about this fight is that the translator guy is funny, but that's it. Also, this boss fight is way later in the game compared to Draco-Ho-Ho, which was the tiebreaker in that regard, and why I think the big lava bubble is worse than Draco-Ho-Ho. But the good news with this boss fight is that this is the last mediocre boss fight on this list. We can finally start talking about some more interesting boss fights now. The Fire Volumental is the last mediocre boss fight on this list. I don't dislike this boss fight, but it's not mediocre like the simple boss fights were, like Draco-Ho-Ho or the big lava bubble. No, this boss fight's very flawed, but just like in every other Origami King boss fight, if you know what you're doing, which you will because these are puzzles, not real boss fights, you're gonna have a really easy time. Just make a straight line, and that's it. Just use shiny iron boots, that's all you need to do, and then just use the 1000-fold arms right at the end. All you need to do, very simple, and it's why I don't dislike the fight, because you can easily get past it and it's very short. But on your first playthrough, oh my god, it's terrible on your first playthrough. And the reason why it's actually worse than all the boss fights we've talked about so far is that it's very poorly designed, and this is why it's number 6. I don't hate it like the other bosses you're going to talk about soon, but it is very flawed and very poorly designed, so it makes sense to be this low on the list. Yes, we can finally talk about bad bosses on this list. I do not like Cretin, but before I actually talk about Cretin, I do want to mention that no giant battles from Bowser's Inside Story were bad enough to get on this list. I mean, I think that 2 of them are meh, but not bad. That's a great accomplishment for giant battles in general. But, back to Cretin. Cretin is not a good boss fight in my opinion, and it's for one simple reason. This boss fight is so extremely slow. I would have thought that this boss fight takes 10 minutes, but in reality it takes 5. If a boss fight tricks my mind to thinking that it's twice as long as it actually is, that is a problem. I mean, everything about it is slow. The first phase, trying to turn every single orb blue, takes a very long time. Even though I like the puzzle, I do gotta admit it's very slow. When he splits into his 6 copies when he's out of the spider web, it takes a long time to mix up, and again, it's very slow. The attack that they all do with the lightning bolt, guess what? It's very slow. And the bros attack, the main bros attack that they're going to be using, the jump helmet, is of course also very slow. Everything about this boss fight is slow, and it's very annoying. Again, this boss fight makes me think it takes around 10 minutes. That's twice as long as it actually is. That is a big problem. That's why I don't like this fight. And you may be wondering why I didn't include the X version of Cretin. Well, the main reason I didn't is because that boss fight is optional. I mean, it's definitely worse because it takes longer, but since it's optional, I can't really include any X bosses on this list. I mean, any optional boss fight isn't really bad because you can just ignore it, but this boss fight, well, it's not optional, so it definitely deserves to be on this list. At number 4, we have Bone Chill. Oh, Bone Chill. Bone Chill, in my personal opinion, is the worst very simple and very easy boss fight, because it has every single problem that those types of bosses would have. Not only is it very late into the game, not only is it super easy, you could take it out in less than a minute, maybe less than 2 minutes, it's just so disappointing. And that's the main reason why I do not like this fight. This is the worst type of it. It has every single problem, and it's genuinely disappointing, because I also see potential in this fight. I mean, Luigi's high jump could have been used better. The ice attacks could have done more damage, maybe have him have more health. You can easily cheese this fight. Everything about it is just really stupid. The good news is that I don't hate this fight, I don't despise it, but that's not really something I could say for the top 3. I knew I was gonna have to talk about Papercraft King Boo. This fight is so bad. I mean, the Papercrafts in Paper Jam suck. It's one of the worst things about the game. I don't like any of them. I think they control bad, and I do not like the Toad meter. I wish that I could just play the fight without having to recharge it. Just a really stupid concept in my opinion. But King Boo is my least favorite Papercraft battle. And I do want to mention, Papercraft Bowser was really close to making this list because it takes so long. It's a boss gauntlet. But I actually kind of like the Bowser battle at the end, which is why I didn't make the list. But Papercraft King Boo, oh my god, I do not like anything about this fight. Actually, there's 2 things I like about it. I like Yoshi with the trio grab, I think that's cool, and I like that the islands are separated because of the trio grab. That's it though, everything else about it sucks. I think the normal enemies are not great, the dry bones are, I mean, I guess they're okay, but the boos, oh my god, the boos are so annoying because you have to use Yoshi's tongue to get them into the battlefield. The problem with that is that Yoshi's tongue is mapped to the dash button. It's mapped to the dash button, and you have to face lava to actually get the boos into the battlefield. So if you mess up, then you're dashing straight into the lava. Straight into it. You're burning your butt for no reason. It's so stupid, and I've done it so many times, it's very irritating. And then the King Boo fight itself is really forgettable and boring, and I'm pretty sure I remember it being very long. This fight's really bad. I really do not like it. It's not fun. It controls horrible. I think this is the worst controlled Papercraft battle. That is a feat you do not want, and it kind of shows how bad this Papercraft battle really is. The only reason it's not any higher is because the top 2 fights are just terrible, and there's no redeeming qualities about it. But this fight is not good either. I mean, I really do not like it, but the only reason it's not higher is because it's just not bad enough. So this is why it's number 3. Don't fight this in the battle ring, or whatever it's called in Paper Jam. Just don't. You'll regret your life if you do. This is my least favorite final boss in the Mario RPGs by far, and this is my second least favorite boss battle in the Mario RPGs as well, so this is definitely going to sound a bit ranty, so I'm sorry for that, but I really do hate this boss battle. But let's get the good things out of the way. I really like the third phase. I genuinely do. After Kirsty sacrifices herself, the music gets really good, you get 3 to 5 slots to actually attack, and you do a lot of damage, but you might actually run out of stickers, so you still have that pressure. I really like the third phase, and if this boss battle was just the third phase, it would have been really good, but it has the first phase. The second phase is fine. It doesn't really do anything. It's kind of just leading into the third phase. but the first phase, oh my god, the first phase is horrible. It is infuriating to get through this first phase. First off, Bowser has a ton of health, and you can barely hit him sometimes unless you have thing cards. The problem with this, though, is that for preparation, I didn't know what the boss battle was. I decided to get rid of all my thing cards from my album. I decided to get really powerful hammers, really powerful jumps, clone jumps, infinite jumps, you get my point. So, I had no thing cards to get to Bowser, and this is terrible for the first phase. Now, what did I do instead? I had to use the Battle Spinner. The Battle Spinner is not reliable because it's just like going to the slots in a casino. That's exactly what it is. Now, you can secure yourself 2 slots to be the same, which is good, but you can't secure that third one, and you need that third one to do enough damage to get Bowser to move to the next phase in the first phase. There's sub-phases in the first phase. It's very irritating to do this, and since it's not reliable, it just gets infuriating. Also, since Bowser is a spiky enemy, I don't really see this as a bad thing, but for this circumstance it is. It just got really annoying because I had to use all my hammers and I didn't use any of my jumps, which means I could not damage Bowser, which basically means I was stuck. This boss battle sucks. It's just very infuriating. It's poorly designed. You should not need to use required thing cards. Very specific ones as well. You need the stapler, the scissors, you need an icy attack. There's so many thing cards you need, and it's really stupid in my opinion. I have no idea why you need such specific thing cards. It's really dumb, and I'm so glad that Color Splash did way better with this final boss, but this is not on Color Splash. I really hate this fight. It's really poorly designed, and the music doesn't even fit for a final boss. I mean, it's a good boss theme, I guess, but for a final boss, it just does not fit at all. It's not really intense, it's not really epic, it doesn't make sense. At the very least, the third phase is good, but oh my god, the first phase is horrible, and this is why it's on the list. It's not the worst boss, but I'm pretty sure if you guys have seen my channel, you guys know exactly what the worst boss is on this list. Of course this was gonna be number 1. Giant Bowser. I have talked about this fight 5 times now, and I still don't like it. My opinion has stayed the exact same. I hate this fight. It's my least favorite fight in the entire Mario RPGs, as you can tell. But I will say that if you do not play hard mode for Dream Team, you will never understand why I dislike it, because on normal mode, it's a great fight. I might add, it's a phenomenal fight. It's really good. I mean, his attacks are really good. I really like the atmosphere. I really like the second phase, the Beyblade section. I genuinely like it. I thought it was fun. And I actually liked Giga Giant Bowser and the Diving Star. I thought it was really intense. But on hard mode, everything is ruined because of Giga Giant Bowser on hard mode. His attacks that he does are almost impossible to dodge without a stylus. And I actually had to get a stylus, and it wasn't an instant win. It was very annoying to get past, and I had to do this fight 20 times, around 20. I'm not even exaggerating, it was really stupid, and it takes around 10 minutes to get to Giga Giant Bowser. And 10 minutes times 20 is 200 minutes, and 200 minutes is around 3.5 hours. So it's basically 3.5 hours of me doing the exact same thing for a fight. That ruins the first phase for me because it's not randomized attacks. It's basically the exact same sequence, and it's really stupid, and I hate it. And then obviously Giga Giant Bowser, I just get to that point, and then I fail. The Diving Star isn't really bad. I mean, it's definitely intense, I will say that. I didn't mess up, thank God, but I wouldn't really say I enjoyed it. Man, this fight, it's horrible on hard mode. And just imagine this. Imagine the, I guess, horrible controls of King Boo. But you add some extreme difficulty, but you can't actually work to get good at the difficulty. That is exactly how I would describe Giant Bowser. Horrible controls with extreme difficulty is a horrible, and I mean horrible combination, and this is why Giant Bowser is my least favorite giant battle and my least favorite boss in the Mario RPGs. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'm actually pretty surprised this was longer than the top 10 best bosses. Make sure to leave a like. Again, we're trying to hit 125 likes. And make sure to subscribe if you last this long. I'd really appreciate that. But other than that, G-bye.